The chains of shame. The market of slaves was loud and cruel. Voices rose high. Laughter echoed. And chains rattled like broken music. On the tall podium, under the burning lights, she stood in chains. Her wrists were locked, her ankles bound, a heavy collar pressing against her neck. Her eyes were downcast, but her heart screamed for freedom. The aliens around her treated her as nothing. They shouted numbers, waved coins, and mocked her name. She had once been a daughter, a sister, a living soul in her family. But now she was displayed like an object. They had betrayed her, selling her to the merchants, calling her useless, calling her weak. The crowd laughed. They saw her as entertainment. To them she was not a person, only a podium slave. She bit her lips hard, trying not to cry. She had learned long ago that tears gave them more joy. She would not give them joy today. Yet, her heart broke when she remembered her family's faces. Her own blood had chained her. Her own home had pushed her into this nightmare. She wondered if love had ever been real, or if it had been just another lie. The auctioneer, a tall alien with metallic skin and 4 eyes, shouted louder. His voice echoed through the night air. He spoke of her beauty, her strength, her youth. As if they were items on a list, the crowd roared. Coins clashed, chains clinked, her body shook, but she forced herself to stay still. And then, she noticed him. In the far corner of the crowd, among the shouting aliens, stood a man, a human man. His eyes were not cruel. His lips were not smiling at her misery. He stood silent, his fists tight, his chest rising with deep breaths. For a moment, their eyes met. It was only a second, but it was different. His gaze did not strip her. His gaze did not laugh. His gaze was fire. His gaze was anger. His gaze was promise. She looked away quickly, afraid to hope. Hope was dangerous here. Hope could kill. Yet still, her heart whispered, "Who is he? Why does he look at me like that?" The auctioneer's voice rose again, announcing her final price. The crowd shouted. 2 alien bidders raised their offers. The air was thick with greed. The auctioneer smiled wide, ready to end the deal. But before the hammer could fall, a new voice broke the night. It was deep, strong, and fearless, the voice of the human. "I will take her," he said. His words were not like the others. His words were not filled with greed. They were filled with defiance. The market went silent. Every alien turned to look at him. Shock spread through the crowd like fire. A human daring to challenge them. A human daring to speak against their trade. The auctioneer frowned. "You cannot take without coin," he hissed. "You cannot take without price." The human stepped forward. His boots struck the stone ground hard. His eyes did not waver. His voice did not break. "She is not a thing. She is not for sale. No one owns her. Not while I stand here." Gasps filled the air. The crowd burst into anger. Aliens shouted, cursed, demanded the human's silence. Some laughed, thinking him foolish. Others growled, preparing to strike. The woman's breath caught. Her heart raced. She wanted to scream at him to run. She wanted to tell him they would kill him. But her lips would not move. Her chains felt heavier, but her heart felt lighter. The auctioneer slammed his staff on the podium. "Take him away," he shouted. Guards rushed forward, armored, armed, ready to crush the human. But the human did not move. His hand went to his side. His eyes burned like stars. He stood as if the entire world could not break him. The woman felt something strange in her chest. It was not fear. It was not despair. It was something she had forgotten long ago. It was hope. The guards closed in. The air shook with their steps. The crowd roared, waiting for blood. The woman trembled. She did not know what would happen. Would he survive? Would he fight? Would he fall? And in that moment, as the guards reached him, as the night turned heavy with danger, one thought filled her heart. Maybe, just maybe, freedom had found her in the hands of a human. The human stand. The guards moved fast, their armor clashing, weapons shining in the lights of the market. The alien crowd shouted with bloodlust. They wanted to see the human broken. They wanted him crushed into the ground. But the human did not step back. He stood still, his eyes burning, his fists ready. He was one man against many, but he looked like he feared nothing. The chained woman stared at him with wide eyes. She had seen warriors before. She had seen rebels before. But this was different. He did not look like a fighter. He looked like a protector. His presence was not just strength. It was something greater, something untouchable. The guards rushed forward. Their metal boots thundered. The auctioneer raised his staff high. His voice screamed for silence. "This slave belongs to the highest bidder," he roared, "and no human may interfere." But the human's voice cut through the noise, calm yet sharp as steel. "She is not a slave," he said. "Not anymore." The words struck the air like thunder. The crowd gasped. Some laughed, some cursed, some were silent, but all of them felt the weight of his defiance. The guards swung their blades, but the human moved faster than they expected. His fist struck one guard in the jaw, sending him crashing to the floor. The second guard swung low, but the human kicked him back. The third guard hesitated, fear flickering in his alien eyes. The woman's chains rattled as she leaned forward. Her breath quickened, her heart pounded. She could not believe what she was seeing. A human, one single human, was standing against the masters of the market. The auctioneer's fury shook the podium. "Kill him," he screamed. "Tear him apart." The guards swarmed, 4, 5, 6 of them. But the human did not break. He fought with fury, with speed, with something more than strength. He fought with purpose. Every strike was not just to survive. It was to protect her. The woman's chest tightened. She had never seen anyone fight like this. Not for her, not for a slave. She whispered under her breath. Why? Why would he do this? The crowd was in chaos. Some cheered for blood. Others watched in awe. A few even whispered to each other that perhaps the human was more than he seemed. And then, in the middle of the fight, the human did something no one expected. He turned his head, locking eyes with her again, even as he fought, and in that moment, he shouted words that shook her soul. "You are not their property," he said, his voice strong. "You are not a thing. They cannot own you." Tears burned in her eyes. She had been called worthless, weak, and broken for so long. But this man, this stranger, this human she had never met, was calling her something else, someone. The guards tried to surround him again. One grabbed his arm, another swung from behind. But the human ripped the chain from the podium itself, snapping iron with raw force. He swung it wide, the heavy chain smashing into the guards, throwing them back. The crowd roared, shock and fury mixing. No one had ever dared to defy the podium in such a way. No one had ever turned the slave's own chains into a weapon. The woman's breath caught in her throat. Hope rose inside her chest, hot and dangerous. The human was not here to watch her fall. He was here to break her free. The auctioneer shouted again, his face twisted with rage. "Stop him, or the market burns," he screamed. But even in his rage, there was fear. Because in that moment, everyone saw it. This was no ordinary human. This was something different. A storm had stepped into their world, and he was tearing it apart with his bare hands. The woman's chains rattled again. She pulled against them without meaning to, desperate to reach him, desperate to move. And in her heart, for the first time since her betrayal, she whispered a prayer, not for herself, but for him. "Do not fall, human, do not fall." And as the dust rose, as the guards fell, and as the human stood tall with the broken chain in his grip, the entire market knew one thing. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. The escape. The chain clanged against the stone as the last guard fell. The human stood in the middle of the chaos, his chest rising, sweat on his brow. The crowd screamed in shock and fury. Some shouted to kill him. Others whispered in fear. The woman's heart pounded. She had never seen anyone fight like that. Never for her. Never for a slave. His strength was not only in his fists. It was in the way he stood unbroken, the way he looked at her, as if she mattered. The auctioneer's face twisted with rage. "Seize him," he screamed, "and chain the girl forever." But even as his voice thundered, no guard dared to step forward. The human turned, his eyes locking on the woman again. He moved quickly, pulling at the iron around her wrists. The locks clanged. The chains trembled. She stared at him, too stunned to speak. With one brutal strike, he broke the clasp. The iron fell to the ground with a heavy thud. Her arms shook as freedom touched her skin for the first time. She gasped for air as if breathing again after drowning. He grabbed her hand. "We have to go," he said. His voice was low, urgent, but steady. She nodded, her legs weak, but her will stronger than ever. They jumped from the podium. The crowd surged forward in fury. Alien merchants shouted. Guards tried to block their path, but the humans swung the chain again, forcing them back. The two of them ran. Their footsteps echoed in the wide stone corridors of the market. Behind them, the sound of pursuit grew louder. Boots, weapons, and the furious cries of the alien masters. The woman stumbled once, her legs still heavy from the chains, but he caught her before she fell. His grip was firm, his eyes never wavering. "Don't stop," he said. "Not now." They turned down a narrow path between the stalls. The smells of strange spices, burning oils, and iron filled the air. The crowd was closing in from behind. The human pulled her into a shadowed alley, pressing her against the wall to keep her hidden. Her breath came fast, her chest rising. She looked at him, eyes wide with fear. "Why do you risk this?" she whispered. "Why for me?" His jaw tightened. His voice was quiet but sharp. "Because you deserve more than chains," he said. "Because no one should stand alone." The words burned inside her chest. She felt tears rising but held them back. This was not the time for tears. The shouts grew louder. The guards were closing in. The human glanced up, spotting an opening above, a broken balcony that led to the outer wall. Without a word, he crouched down, gesturing for her to climb. She hesitated. "I can't," she whispered. Her body was weak, her heart full of fear, but his eyes met hers, steady and unshakable. "Yes, you can," he said. "I will not let you fall." She placed her foot on his hands. He lifted her up, higher and higher. Her fingers grabbed the edge of the balcony. Her muscles screamed, but she pulled. The human climbed after her, swift and strong. From the top, they saw the outer gates, massive and guarded. The only way out was through. The woman's breath caught. "They will kill us," she whispered. But the human shook his head. "No," he said, "not if we move together." The guards spotted them. Shouts echoed across the walls. The sound of weapons being drawn filled the night. The chase was no longer in the shadows. It was open, brutal, and dangerous. The human grabbed her hand again, pulling her forward. They ran across the balcony, arrows and beams of light flashing past them. One arrow struck the wall beside her, sending sparks into the air. She stumbled but kept running. The gates loomed ahead, huge, black, and locked with heavy iron. The woman's heart sank. "It's closed," she whispered. But the human's eyes narrowed. He was not afraid. He was not giving up. "Then we break it," he said. The crowd roared from behind. The guards closed in. The gates stood tall and unmovable. The woman's heart raced, caught between terror and hope. And in that moment, as they stood before the impossible wall of their freedom, she realized something. This was not just escape. This was destiny. Trust in the dark. The night air outside the market was heavy. Smoke rose from torches, the sounds of pursuit still echoing in the distance. The human pulled her through broken streets, their steps quick but quiet. He did not let go of her hand, not even once. They slipped into the ruins of an old structure, its walls cracked, its roof half fallen. The shadows swallowed them whole. The human motioned for silence, his finger pressed to his lips. She nodded, her breath sharp, her body trembling from exhaustion. For the first time since her chains fell, they were hidden. She leaned against the cold stone, her legs weak, her wrists were raw, red marks carved deep where the iron had been. She rubbed them slowly, unable to believe they were free of chains. The human crouched near the entrance, listening, his ears sharp, his eyes watchful. He looked like a soldier standing guard, but she knew nothing about him. She only knew his presence felt like a shield. Minutes passed. The sounds of the guards faded farther away. The night grew quieter. The human finally turned back to her, his face calm, but his eyes heavy with fire. "You are safe for now," he said. His voice was low, steady. She looked at him, unsure what to say. No one had ever spoken those words to her, not after her family betrayed her, not after the chains. Her lips trembled. "Why?" she whispered. Her voice cracked. "Why risk everything for me?" He did not answer immediately. He looked at her, studied her face, the pain in her eyes, the weight of her scars, and then, softly, he said, "Because you are not what they said you are, because you are not worthless, because no one should live in chains." Her heart jolted. For years she had been told the opposite. For years she had believed the lies, that she was nothing, less than nothing, but his words cut through the darkness like light. She swallowed hard. But they will hunt you, they will kill you for this. He shook his head. Maybe, he said, but I would rather die fighting for freedom than live watching cruelty. Silence filled the ruin. Her chest ached. She had never known such defiance, never known such strength, and it was not strength of fists alone, it was strength of spirit. Her hands trembled as she touched the marks on her wrists. I don't even know your name, she whispered. He gave a small, tired smile. Names can wait, he said. Right now, we move when the dawn comes. Until then, we rest. She looked at him, his face half in shadow, half in moonlight. He looked worn, but unbreakable. His presence filled the broken shelter with something she had not felt in years, something she almost could not name. It was safety, it was hope. She wrapped her arms around herself. Her body shivered not from cold, but from everything inside her breaking loose. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but this time, they were silent tears, not of despair, but of release. The human did not speak. He let her cry quietly. His silence was not distance. It was respect. He did not touch her chains. He did not push her words. He only stayed, a steady figure in the dark. Finally, when her breathing slowed, she whispered, "What if I cannot walk tomorrow? What if I cannot keep up?" He leaned closer, his voice quiet but strong. "Then I carry you," he said. Her breath caught. Her heart stumbled. The words were simple, but they shook her. No one had ever said such a thing to her. Not her family, not anyone. She looked at him again. The man who fought the market, the man who broke her chains, and for the first time, she felt something dangerous, something warm, something she thought had died inside her. Trust. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of something more. The price of freedom. The dawn broke over the alien city, light creeping through the cracks of ruined walls. The woman stirred awake, her body aching but her heart lighter than before. She looked at her wrists, raw but free. The chains were gone, but the memory of them burned. The human was already awake, standing at the broken entrance. His eyes scanned the streets, his hand never far from the chain he still carried as a weapon. He looked like a shadow waiting for war. But outside, the city was not the same. Word had spread faster than fire. The news of a human breaking a Podium slave had reached the masters. Posters glowed on alien walls. Screens flickered with her face and his, their names unknown, but their crime clear. The runaway slave and the human defiler. The bounty was heavy, gold, credits, land. Whatever hunters wanted, it was promised, and so, the streets boiled with greed. Merchants whispered, "They will not last the night." Soldiers prepared. "The masters will tear them apart." And even common people pointed at the glowing signs, some with pity, some with hunger in their eyes. Inside the ruined shelter, the woman's heart sank as she saw the glowing posters from a broken window. Her face, once ignored, now hunted. "They put a price on me," she whispered. Her voice shook. "And you, because of me." The human looked at her, his face steady. "This was always the price," he said. "Freedom is never free." Tears burned in her eyes. "But why should you pay it?" she said. "Why should you carry my chains?" He shook his head. "Because chains on one are chains on all," he answered. His voice was low, but each word carried weight. Her chest tightened. Guilt cut through her like a blade. She felt she was a curse. She felt she was dragging him into death. "I should have stayed," she whispered. "I should have let them keep me. You could have walked away." The human's eyes flashed. He stepped closer, his presence burning with fire. "Walk away," he said, his voice sharp. "And leave you there. Leave you to them." His fists tightened. "I would rather fight the whole world." She trembled. His anger was not at her, but at the cruelty around them. And for the first time, she believed him. He would fight the whole world if he had to. Outside, shouts rang. Heavy boots stomped. Bounty hunters prowled the streets like wolves. The alien masters had promised fortune, and fortune always brought blood. The human knew they could not hide forever. "We move tonight," he said. Before the hunters close in. His plan was sharp, his tone firm, but her heart was breaking. She looked at him, her voice soft. "And if we fail?" she asked. He met her eyes, steady and unshaken. Then we fall free, not chained. Her lips trembled. Her guilt turned to something else, something heavier, but brighter. She realized his fight was not only for her. It was for every chain, every slave, every voice silenced. The weight of freedom pressed on her shoulders. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. And as the hunters gathered outside, as the city prepared to hunt them both like prey, she understood something deep in her soul. She was no longer just running for herself. She was running for him, too. For the man who risked everything. For the man who carried her chains. For the man who refused to let go. The price of freedom was high, but together they would pay it. The choice of the heart. The night stretched long as they moved through the broken lands. Dust rose with every step. The alien city faded behind them. But the dangers still followed. Shadows of bounty hunters stalked the ridges, their glowing eyes watching from a distance. The woman's body was weak, but she did not stop. Every time she stumbled, the human caught her, his grip steady, his pace unbroken. He never let her fall. By dawn, they reached the edge of the alien world. Beyond the hills, the banners of human territory flickered faint in the light. For the first time, she saw human guards on the horizon, tall figures in armor, their weapons gleaming, their flags shining with colors of freedom. Her heart pounded. Hope rose like fire, but fear rose with it. What if they looked at her the way her people did? What if they saw only a slave, an alien, a burden? She slowed her steps. Her voice was low, trembling. "They will not want me," she whispered. "Your people, they will see me as a stranger. They will turn me away." The human turned to her, his face calm, his eyes unshakable. "No," he said. "They will see you as I see you." She shook her head. Her chains may have been broken, but her scars still burned. "I am not like you," she whispered. "I am marked. I am less." His jaw tightened. His voice sharpened like steel. "No," he said again, louder. "You are not less. You are more. You survived chains. You survived betrayal. You walked through fire and still breathe. That is not less. That is strength." Her chest ached. Tears welled in her eyes. His words struck deeper than the iron ever had. For the first time, she dared to believe them. But the moment was broken as the sound of engines roared behind them. Hunters had followed. Vehicles rolled across the rocks, weapons mounted, banners of alien masters flying high. The human grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the human border. "Run," he said. His voice thundered with urgency. She obeyed, her legs screaming, her lungs burning. The hunters fired. Beams of light cut across the ground. Explosions shook the rocks. Dust filled the air, but the human never let go of her hand. He pulled her forward with everything he had. The human guards at the border raised their weapons. Their voices shouted commands. At first, they aimed at both of them, not knowing who was friend, who was foe. The woman froze, her heart breaking. This was the moment. Would they accept her, or reject her forever? She tried to pull back, her fear overwhelming. "Leave me," she cried. "Go to them. You will be safe without me." But the human turned, his hand gripping hers tighter, his eyes burning with fire. "Never," he said. His voice cut through the chaos like thunder. "I will not walk into safety while you are left behind." The human guards hesitated, watching him shield her with his own body, watching him take the blasts meant for both of them. They saw the chain in his hand. They saw the fire in his eyes. And then, something shifted. The guards lowered their weapons. The gates of human territory opened. A commander stepped forward, his voice strong. "She is with us," he declared. The woman's breath caught. Her knees weakened. She could not believe it. For the first time, she was not turned away, not chained, not rejected. The human pulled her across the line, into the safety of his world. The hunters halted at the border, unable to cross. Their fury echoed, but it was powerless now. She fell to her knees inside the gate. Trembling, tears streamed down her face, not of despair, but of release. The human crouched beside her, lifting her chin, his voice soft. "You are free," he said, "not just in body, but in heart." And in that moment, surrounded by human shields, she realized something she had never believed before. She was not only free, she was wanted, she belonged. Love beyond chains. The gates of human territory closed behind them. The woman fell to her knees, breathless, her heart pounding with both fear and relief. The human stood over her, his chest rising, his eyes scanning the horizon. But peace did not last. The alien masters arrived at the border, their war banners rising, their voices thundering. They came with soldiers, hunters, and fire. They came not just for her, but to break the defiance of the human who had dared to challenge them. The commander of the aliens stepped forward. His voice shook the ground. "Return the slave," he demanded. "Return what is ours." His words dripped with venom, with greed, with cruelty. The woman froze. Her chains may have been broken, but the weight of his voice dragged at her. Old fear clawed inside her chest. She wanted to scream, to hide, to vanish. The human stepped in front of her. His voice thundered back. "She is not yours," he said. She never was. His stance was unbroken, his eyes unshaken. The alien master laughed. His soldiers roared with him. "Then you choose war," he hissed. The human did not flinch. "If war is the price for her freedom, then I pay it gladly." The woman trembled. Her tears fell. Her heart broke and healed in the same breath. She could not let him fight alone. Not again. Not anymore. She rose slowly, her legs weak, but her voice gathering fire. She stepped beside him, her head held high. The alien stared in shock. For the first time, the Podium slave stood without chains, without fear. Her voice rang clear, louder than she thought possible. "I am not a slave," she cried. The words tore the air, shaking the silence. "I am not yours." The crowd gasped. Even the human guards behind her froze. Her voice grew stronger, rising like fire. "I belong to no master, no chain, no cage." Her chest rose, her eyes burned. "I am free, and I choose him." The human turned, his eyes wide. For a moment, even his fire was softened by her courage. The alien masters hissed with rage, their weapons raised, their soldiers prepared. But the human army at the border lifted their banners higher, shields locked, weapons gleamed. They were ready to fight, not for conquest, but for her right to choose. The alien commander's voice shook again, but this time with anger, not power. "This is not the end," he roared. "We will return, and we will break you both." The human stepped forward, his voice steady. "You already lost," he said, "because you cannot chain a heart once it has found freedom." The aliens retreated, their fury echoing, their banners falling back into the distance. The night grew still. The silence left behind was heavy, powerful, victorious. The woman turned to the human, her tears shining, but her lips curved into the smallest smile. "You gave me freedom," she whispered, "but you gave me something greater. You gave me choice." He touched her hand gently, not as a master, not as a savior, but as an equal. His voice was soft. "And you chose me." She nodded, her heart steady for the first time, her voice strong. "I am not a slave. I am not worthless. I am yours, and you are mine." The human banners waved high. The stars above shone brighter, and in the heart of the night, the woman who had once been chained as a Podium slave now stood free, standing in love, standing in strength. Her chains were broken, her past was ashes, her future was hers. And together, they walked into it, hand in hand.